rather than fighting or debating. They will start to problem solve what we're going to do, and then it's up to them to execute. So anyone coming through mediation is going to execute all these things. But even in litigation, it's not the attorneys who go and close your credit card accounts, it's you. So we, just like anything else, what's at risk here, what's remaining open, what's going to get liquidated, and one at a time, and then we figure out who does it and when, and we start putting terms to those.
And what about bank accounts?
Everything. Whatever someone has, anything that's even a remote asset or a debt, inheritance or otherwise, we handle it.
Does inheritance become transferred to the other party?
No. There's two in the community. It's a good question. In a community property state, there's still two. At least in California, there's still two ways you can acquire separate property in a community property state, and you just identified one of them is inheritance. So an inheritance at law will be presumed to be someone's separate property. So right now, using myself as an example, if I inherited $100,000, got divorced the next day, that money's mine.
Got it.
The other way you can acquire community property, separate property in a community property state, is through gift. So if someone said to me, John, this gift is to you. I know you're married to your wife, Debbie, but this gift is to you specifically. That would be my separate property as well.
That's interesting.
Other than that, the assumption at law is it's community property unless they can prove that they had it or acquired it before the marriage.
Why divorce mediation under $5,000?
And that was my personal set point. And the reason why I can do that, I know this is self-serving, but that is very inexpensive. If anybody knows anything about divorce, that's very inexpensive. So I'm going to answer the price set point and why I do the flat fee. The price set point is based on my experience. I know that over a year's time as a businessman, based on my methodology, my copyrighted methodology, and my skill set, that I'm going to average 2 4-hour sessions 99% of the time. Well, when I know that, I now know it virtually becomes a fixed cost for me. It's not. It's still variable, but it becomes a fixed cost. So I know in a year's time, I'm still in the black. So that's one reason why I do flat fee. Another reason is people know that they're not going to spend 5 cents more than that. Whether you're an attorney or a mediator, anyone who bills out by the hour, some people have to bill out by the hour, but if I was to bill out by the hour, in any lawsuit, and always remember divorce is a lawsuit, you can just mediate it in a civil fashion. Any lawsuit, anyone billing out by the hour, strike that. Anyone billing by the hour, there's an infinite, virtually in theory, an infinite number of billable hours in a lawsuit because anything can come up. Well, when I propose a flat fee to folks, they know that whether it takes me 8 hours or 108 hours, they're not spending 5 cents more. They come in knowing that they're not going to spend any more, and I know what my job is, and people tend to like that. But the flat fee is almost more of a marketing thing for me, as much as I can do it. I can effectually get this done in 8 hours, including the paperwork with my paralegal, and move forward. Within that, I think I mentioned to you, I used to have an office in Newport Beach. I had all the bells and whistles. I now have closed that bricks and mortar location, and that's another way I can pass savings on to folks. So the reason why I can keep it below $5,000 is I have cut my overhead to the bare minimum, and I pass those savings along as well.
I think that's fantastic. Do you think that it's realistic to vision that the entertainment industry, people who are in trouble, would utilize you?
We could only hope, in today's world, but with any big-time dispute, let me say it this way. My answer is yes, as self-serving as that is, anything, and this is a true statement, anything that can be civilly litigated or arbitrated can be mediated. So the answer to your question, if it's a civil lawsuit that they're about to enter into, whether it goes into litigation or not, can it be mediated? The answer is yes. Will it be mediated is up to the parties. If they're into the mode of, I'm just seeking revenge and I'm going to pay you back in a public way, it'll never be mediated. But if they actually have a beef that they say, I'd rather resolve this and fight about it, it can be mediated, absolutely. And those high-profile cases would come in handy for any small business person, but I'm sure they're few and far between.
I know that this is what you specialize in, so we're talking about that. But I just wondered, all of these divorces, you could have been there.
And I guarantee, I don't care how many attorneys they had, how high-powered they were, ultimately they settle. Know this, that statistically, 99% of all civil lawsuits settle. They never get a rendering or a verdict from a judge or a jury. It includes divorce. Most of them settle. So since it's going to settle, so there's a 99% chance your case is going to settle, my advice is start in the settlement process. Just start right there, virtually in the middle, and just work closer together since it's going to settle anyway.
Don't you think that why people don't, have the mindset to begin in a settlement process is that mediation is still very much kind of like a resonant program in the computer. It's somewhere in there, but it's not in your awareness.
I completely agree. As I think I mentioned earlier, when I had a company, 14 business partners, 15 business partners, there was a bunch of us. All that money went to marketing and advertising. If people knew, if people knew what we did, as you alluded to before, and what we can do at the price we do it for, they should be beating down my door.
Clearly. And the thing is that I really think that most people's mindset, or many people's mindset, doesn't have the information and doesn't know that this is legitimate in terms of settling these kind of disputes, but also creating a game plan for what's next inside the settlement for divorces. But also, it's very interesting with the Charlie Sheen thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example. This is really not about him, but it's about what's being expressed. This whole thing about winning and losing.
Yeah.
And when there's a dispute, what kicks into high gear is at any cost. I've got to win. I'm going to win. This is about winning and losing.
It's ingrained in us in our Western culture society.
It's so deep level. And I'm wondering, in your experience and in your practice over many years, is it obvious to you that that's what takes over when you first begin mediation?
I would say 90% of the time, that's what I see. One or both parties are in those immutable positions. They're going to be intractable. I'm coming after you. So not only do I think I'm right, now I'm going to punish you and prove it to you. So many people come in with that mindset, but that goes along with, and this is a personal opinion, but I see it all the time, there's what I believe is a culture of incivility in the United States. It's been brewing for a long, long time. Part of that culture of incivility is a lack of respect for womanhood. And I don't know when I'm 56 years old. I don't know when it happened when men began to disrespect women and ladies and stop being gentlemanly. But it's part of the culture, that incivility. So most people, not like that, many people come into a mediation or a litigation with a lot of anger and hostility. Not all, but some do. And certainly that's much of what fuels a lawsuit, and that's much of what I dissipate in the first few hours of negotiating with people. But certainly anger can fuel a lawsuit. Grief can. Any strong emotion can fuel a lawsuit.
It's an interesting comment that you made, because I said to my girlfriend of a few years ago that it appears as though there is a drought of what you're referring to. Now, I called it of chivalry.
Exactly. I would agree with that.
It appears as if chivalry and all that's valued in what that was understood to be is not of value anymore.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't know exactly, because I'm not a sociologist, when and how it disappeared, but you and I agree, it's gone. We fell off that cliff where there's no boundaries. Men will get in a woman's face the way he would get in another man's face these days. Are people still holding doors? I don't know, for each other. But chivalry is dead. A gross lack of respect for womanhood is gone. A lack of respect for authority. Something has happened. And so it does carry over, to tie this into divorce. Quite frankly, I see folks, say 40 or younger, who are part of that incivility culture. They don't even know it. They were just raised in that culture. They don't even know they're being uncivil to each other. I have to point it out to them sometimes. That let's throttle back. It's a go for the throat mentality, and so it's the media's job to bring them back to that's not going to work in mediation.
The thing is that as advanced and as fast as technology is developing, the reality is that advancement of technology vis-a-vis cell phones and PDAs and miniaturization of being on the computer and the online universe on one level has opened up this huge opportunity for people to be able to function and operate and communicate much easier. But on another level, it's tied in youth and it's tied in this culture to everything happening